Have you ever witnessed a father literally ban his own daughter from meeting her sister's wealthy in-laws? That's exactly what happened to me. While my sister stood beside him, smirking in victory, my father declared that my pathetic teaching job would embarrass our entire family in front of high society. But the text message I received that very night changed everything. And what unfolded at the Montgomery Foundation's annual gala left 500 witnesses absolutely speechless. Hi everyone, I'm Evelyn, 32 years old, and this is the story of how I went from being banned at the door to holding all the keys. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. My alarm went off at 6 a.m., just like it had every weekday for the past 7 years at Lincoln High School in Seattle. I rolled out of my modest bed in my one-bedroom apartment, made instant coffee, and reviewed lesson plans for my 5 English classes. By 6:45, I was in my 2015 Honda Civic, navigating the familiar route to school, NPR playing softly on the radio. This was my life, predictable, stable, and according to my family, disappointingly mediocre. My salary of $48,000 a year was enough to cover rent, groceries, and the occasional dinner out with teacher friends. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved what I did. Every day, I taught 150 teenagers about literature, critical thinking, and most importantly, self-worth. The irony wasn't lost on me. Each morning, I stood in front of those kids preaching about believing in yourself, standing up for what's right, and never letting anyone diminish your value. Yet every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every phone call home, I sat silent while my father Robert reminded me how I'd wasted my potential by choosing education over business. It had been 15 years since I'd announced my decision to major in education. 15 years of comments like, teachers are just glorified babysitters, and you could have been somebody important. My younger sister Victoria had learned early that mocking my career choice earned Dad's approval. She'd built her entire identity around not being me, the family disappointment who chose chalk dust over corner offices. But here's the thing about teaching, it shows you that impact isn't measured in salary figures. At least that's what I told myself every time Dad forwarded me job listings for real careers. I had no idea that in less than 48 hours, everything would change. The call came during my lunch break. I was grading papers in the teacher's lounge when Mom's name flashed on my screen. Evelyn, I have wonderful news! Her voice bubbled with an excitement I hadn't heard in years. Victoria's engaged! I set down my red pen. That's sudden. Who's the guy? James Montgomery. The Montgomerys, darling. They own those boutique hotels. Montgomery Grand, Montgomery Estates. Your sister has really made it. My fingers found my phone, typing Montgomery Hospitality Group into Google. The results made my coffee turn cold. 12 luxury hotels across the Pacific Northwest. Estimated net worth, $500 million. Their flagship property, the Montgomery Grand in downtown Seattle, regularly hosted celebrities and dignitaries. My phone buzzed with an incoming FaceTime from Victoria. Her perfectly contoured face filled the screen, a massive diamond catching the light as she waved her left hand. 3 carats, Evelyn, 3! Can you even imagine? She angled the ring to catch more light. James proposed at his family's private vineyard. There were violinists and everything. Congratulations, Vic. How long have you two been dating? She laughed, that practice laugh she'd perfected for Instagram. 4 months. When you know, right? Besides, I'm not getting any younger, and unlike some people, I actually plan to marry Oop. The emphasis on up was deliberate. The Montgomerys have a whole floor, an entire floor, as their penthouse in Manhattan, not like that sad little box you call an apartment. I'm happy for you, I said, meaning it despite the barb. Victoria had always been desperate for something more, something bigger. Sure you are, she smirked. Anyway, we're having dinner tomorrow at Italiano's. Dad's already planning how to leverage this connection for his business. You should see him. He's practically glowing. Of course he was. Italiano's was the kind of place my father only booked when he had something to prove. As I walked through the heavy wooden doors, I spotted them immediately at the VIP table by the window, the one Dad always requested to be seen by the most people. "There she is," Dad announced, not standing as I approached. "The teacher graces us with her presence." Victoria sat beside him, her new ring positioned perfectly to catch the candlelight. Mom offered me a weak smile from across the table. "Congratulations again, Victoria," I said, taking my seat. "Isn't it wonderful?" Dad beamed at Victoria, then turned to me. "Your sister is marrying into the Montgomery family. The Montgomerys. Meanwhile, you're still, what is it you do again? Teach teenagers to read?" "I teach advanced placement literature, Dad." "Right. Well, Victoria will be Mrs. Montgomery soon. She'll be traveling the world, attending charity galas, making real connections. You could learn something from her, Evelyn. It's not too late to make something of yourself." Victoria leaned forward, her voice honeyed. "The engagement party is next week at the Montgomery Grand. The entire family will be there, all of James's business associates, some city council members. Even the mayor might stop by." "That sounds lovely," I said, reaching for my water glass. "Oh, but—" Victoria exchanged a look with Dad. "I mean, you don't really need to come. It might be awkward. All those successful people, and then having to explain that my sister is just a public school teacher. You understand, right? We want to make the best impression." Dad nodded approvingly. "Image matters in these circles, Evelyn. We can't have you making the family look cheap." The word hung in the air like a slap. I set down my water glass carefully, the soft clink against the table the only sound for a moment. "Are you actually uninviting me from my sister's engagement party?" Dad straightened his tie, the power move he always made before delivering what he considered hard truths. "I'm being practical, Evelyn. The Montgomerys are sophisticated people. What would we say when they ask about your career? That you make $48,000 a year teaching kids who don't even want to be there? That you drive a 10-year-old Honda? It's embarrassing." "It's honest," I replied quietly. "It's pathetic," he shot back. "This is Victoria's moment. Her chance to elevate our entire family's standing. I won't let your mediocrity ruin it." Victoria placed her manicured hand on Dad's arm, playing the peacemaker. "Evelyn, don't take it personally. We'll tell everyone you had a prior commitment. A teacher conference or something. That sounds important enough, right?" Mom stayed silent, studying her salad as if it contained the secrets of the universe. She'd perfected the art of disappearing while sitting right there. "So I'm officially banned from meeting the Montgomerys?" I asked, needing to hear it clearly. Dad laughed, actually laughed. "You really think I'd ever let you meet your sister's rich in-laws? Your blue-collar job makes our family look cheap. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for the Myers name, and I won't have you sabotaging it with your presence." They all watched me, waiting for tears, for anger, for the scene that would prove Dad right about my emotional instability. Instead, I folded my napkin and placed it beside my untouched plate. "Don't worry, you won't have to explain me to anyone." I stood and walked out, my footsteps steady on the marble floor, not looking back even when Mom finally called my name. By 11 p.m., I was in my pajamas, grading essays and trying not to replay dinner in my head. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. "This is Marcus Montgomery. We need to talk." I stared at the message. Montgomery. As in Victoria's soon-to-be brother-in-law? I Googled quickly. Marcus Montgomery, COO of Montgomery Hospitality Group, James's younger brother, Harvard MBA, 35 years old. His professional headshot showed sharp features and intelligent eyes. Another buzz. "I know about EduBridge Initiative. Impressive work." My heart stopped. EduBridge? How did he— Before I could respond, my phone rang, the same unknown number. "Ms. Myers?" The voice was professional but warm. "I apologize for the late hour. This is Marcus Montgomery." "How do you know about EduBridge?" I make it my business to know about innovative education programs in the Pacific Northwest. Your nonprofit has helped 10,000 students in 3 years, 92% improvement rate in standardized testing, 2 National Education Association awards. Should I continue? I sank onto my couch. That's thorough research. Here's why I'm calling. Montgomery Foundation is launching a massive education initiative, $15 million over 5 years. We need a partner who understands both the classroom reality and scalable systems. Every major education company will be pitching. And? And I think a public school teacher who built a successful nonprofit from nothing might have insights the MBAs miss. He paused. The proposal deadline is in 72 hours. All finalists present at our annual foundation gala on March 15th. 500 attendees, investors, press, city officials. March 15th, the same day as Victoria's engagement party. Interested? He asked. I thought about Dad's words, about being banned, about being called cheap. Send me the requirements, I heard myself say. Check your email. And Ms. Myers? Don't let anyone tell you teachers aren't important. The line went dead. As I opened Marcus's email, memories flooded back to 3 years ago when I'd co-founded EduBridge Initiative with Sarah Cooper, another frustrated teacher who believed education technology could level the playing field. We'd started in my living room, writing grant proposals after school, pooling our meager savings to buy tablets for underfunded classrooms. Sarah handled the tech side while I developed curriculum. Neither of us took salaries for the first 2 years. This was about impact, not income. The work had consumed my evenings and weekends. While Victoria posted selfies from rooftop bars and Dad forwarded me corporate job listings, I was quietly building something that mattered. 10,000 students across Washington state now had access to personalized learning software. Our adaptive testing program had won recognition from the National Education Association twice. But I'd never told my family. Why would I? They'd just dismiss it as charity work, or worse, mock me for working for free. Dad would calculate the opportunity cost, the lost earnings, the poor business sense of helping kids who couldn't pay. The attached proposal requirements were extensive: financial projections, scalability models, impact metrics. Montgomery Foundation didn't mess around. They wanted a partner, not a charity case. I pulled up our files. Everything was there. 3 years of data, testimonials from students, recommendation letters from superintendents. We'd helped kids in Tacoma's toughest neighborhoods jump 2 grade levels in reading. We'd given rural students access to AP courses their schools couldn't afford to offer. My phone buzzed. Sarah calling. Did you see the news about Montgomery Foundation's education initiative? She asked breathlessly. Marcus Montgomery just called me personally. Silence. Then, are you serious? Evelyn, this could change everything. We could help millions of kids, not just thousands. She was right. This was bigger than family drama. This was our shot. The next 72 hours blurred together. Coffee became my blood type. Sarah and I worked in shifts. She handled financial projections while I crafted the narrative that would make Montgomery Foundation see what we saw: education's future. Page 37 needs tighter impact metrics, Sarah said over video call at 2 a.m., her own eyes rimmed with exhaustion. They want specifics. I pulled up our database. Jefferson High, 87% of our users passed AP exams versus 34% district average. Roosevelt Elementary, reading scores up 2.3 grade levels in one academic year. That's gold. Put it in bold. We dissected Montgomery Foundation's previous partnerships, identifying patterns. They valued innovation, but demanded sustainability. They wanted heart, but required hard data. Every word of our 50-page proposal had to earn its place. Marcus emailed once. Reviewed your draft outline. Strong foundation. Remember, the board thinks big. Don't hold back. By hour 60, we had something special. A comprehensive plan to reach 50,000 students in year 1, scaling to 500,000 by year 5. Teacher training modules, Parent engagement portals. AI-driven personalization that adapted to each student's learning style. This is it, Sarah said, reviewing the final version. This is our shot to prove that teachers, not consultants, not tech bros, but actual teachers, know how to fix education. I hit send at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before deadline. My phone immediately buzzed. Marcus. Proposal received. Exceptional work. CEO William Montgomery wants to meet you personally. March 15th, 2 p.m. presentation slot, Grand Ballroom. I stared at the date. In the same building where Victoria's engagement party would happen, where my family would be celebrating without me, where I'd been banned from appearing. One more thing, his next message read. Your family will be at the VIP table. You okay with that? March 15th arrived gray and drizzling, typical Seattle spring weather. I stood before my closet at 6 a.m., staring at my single black suit, the one I'd bought for teaching interviews 7 years ago. It would have to do. My phone had been buzzing all morning. Victoria's Instagram stories showed her getting ready at the salon, champagne glass in hand, captioning everything with hashtag future Mrs. Montgomery. Mom had texted once, "Hope you're not too upset about tonight. Dad means well." I didn't respond. By noon, I was in the parking garage of the Montgomery Grand Hotel, sitting in my Honda Civic, reviewing my presentation one final time. Through the windshield, I could see the valet area where Bentleys and Teslas pulled up, disgorging Seattle's elite. An email from Dad landed in my inbox. Hope you're not planning anything stupid today. Victoria's happiness is what matters. I deleted it without responding and grabbed my laptop bag. The same hands that graded papers and wrote on whiteboards were about to pitch for $15 million. The lobby was intimidating. 3 stories of marble and crystal, fresh orchids everywhere. I approached the registration desk. Evelyn Myers, EduBridge Initiative. I'm presenting at the Foundation Gala. The attendant's eyes widened slightly. Oh yes, Ms. Myers. You're in the main presentation slot. Here's your badge. She handed me a lanyard that read, Presenter, Main Stage, 2:30 p.m. As I pinned it on, I heard familiar laughter. Across the lobby, Victoria posed for photos with a group of elegantly dressed women, presumably James's family friends. Dad stood nearby, chest puffed out, playing the proud father. Ready to change some lives? I turned to find Marcus Montgomery beside me, looking every inch the corporate executive in his tailored navy suit. As ready as a public school teacher can be, I said. He smiled. That's exactly the right amount of ready. By the way, your family's at table 3. They have no idea you're presenting. This should be interesting. You could have warned them. Why? They made their position clear about your value. Time to let the market decide if they were right. He checked his watch. CEO wants to meet you before your presentation. Fair warning. William Montgomery doesn't suffer fools or false modesty. Be yourself. The teacher who built something from nothing. As we walked toward the elevator, I caught my reflection in a gilded mirror. Same old suit, same simple hairstyle, same teacher they'd banned from the party. For now. The grand ballroom took my breath away. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over round tables dressed in white linen. 500 seats, nearly all filled with Seattle's power players, tech executives, venture capitalists, foundation directors, and press. My presenter badge felt like both armor and target as I navigated through the crowd. At the front, 3 VIP tables surrounded the stage. Table 3 was exactly where Marcus had said. Victoria holding court in a designer dress, Dad networking aggressively with anyone who'd listen, Mom smiling her practiced smile. I found my assigned seat at the presenter's table, stage left. The program on my plate confirmed it. 2:30 p.m. Education Innovation Presentation. Evelyn Myers, EduBridge Initiative. Ms. Myers? A security guard stood beside me, iPad in hand. Mr. Montgomery Sr. would like to see you before your presentation. This way, please. As I stood to follow him, movement caught my eye. Dad had spotted me. His face went from confusion to shock to fury in 3 seconds flat. He half rose from his chair before Victoria grabbed his arm, hissing something urgent. The guard led me toward a side door, and I heard Dad's voice carrying across the room. "Excuse me, that woman shouldn't be here. She wasn't invited to this event." The guard stopped, turned. "Sir, Ms. Myers is our featured presenter. She's exactly where she's supposed to be." The look on Dad's face, confusion mixed with dawning horror, was something I'd never seen before. Victoria had gone pale under her makeup. The other guests at their table were staring, sensing drama. "Presenter?" Dad's voice cracked slightly. "Yes, sir. The main presentation slot. Now, if you'll excuse us, Mr. Montgomery is waiting." As we walked away, I could feel 500 pairs of eyes on my back, including the 2 pairs that had dismissed me just days ago. The moment we stepped into the hallway, Dad's hand clamped onto my shoulder. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" His face was red, voice low but venomous. He must have followed us out. Victoria appeared behind him, her heels clicking on marble. "This is my engagement announcement, Evelyn. How dare you try to upstage me?" "I'm here on business," I said calmly, stepping back from Dad's grip. "I have a presentation for the Montgomery Foundation." "Presentation?" Dad laughed, but it was sharp, nervous. "You're a teacher. What could you possibly present to these people?" "Something that matters." "Don't be ridiculous. These are serious business people, not your teenage students." His voice rose. "You need to leave, now, before you embarrass us all." Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Please, Evelyn, this is my day. My future in-laws are watching. If you care about me at all—" "Like you cared about me when you banned me from meeting them? Is there a problem here?" The voice commanded instant attention. William Montgomery stood in the doorway, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, radiating the kind of authority that built empires. This was James and Marcus's father, the legendary CEO. Dad immediately shifted into business mode, extending his hand. "Mr. Montgomery, I'm Robert Myers, Victoria's father. I was just explaining to my other daughter that there must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding." William's tone could have frozen water. "Ms. Myers is presenting a proposal for our $15 million education initiative. She's one of our top candidates." The hallway went silent. "15 million?" Victoria's whisper was barely audible. William turned to me. "Ms. Myers, we're starting in 5 minutes. Are you ready?" "Yes, sir." "Good." He looked at Dad and Victoria. "I suggest you return to your seats. You won't want to miss this." William Montgomery didn't move until Dad and Victoria retreated back to the ballroom. Then he turned to me, his expression softening slightly. "I've read your proposal 3 times, Ms. Myers. 50 pages of the most comprehensive education reform strategy I've seen in 40 years of philanthropy." "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. That room is full of Harvard MBAs and Stanford PhDs who think they know education because they went to expensive schools. You're a public school teacher with a nonprofit that operates on a shoestring budget. They'll try to eat you alive." "I'm used to tough crowds. I teach teenagers." He actually smiled at that. "Marcus was right about you. You know what impressed me most? Page 37, the part about Jefferson High's AP pass rates. That wasn't a fluke. You've replicated those results in 12 schools." He'd memorized page numbers. This man didn't just skim proposals. The board needs to see that teachers, real teachers, know things consultants never will. Show them that. He paused. "Your family doesn't know about EduBridge, do they?" "No, sir." "Why not?" I thought about lying, spinning something diplomatic. But he'd asked for truth. "Because they would have dismissed it as charity work. Said I was wasting my time on kids who couldn't pay." William nodded slowly. "I built Montgomery Hospitality from one motel in Tacoma. My family thought I was crazy for 30 years. Then Forbes put me on their cover." He checked his Rolex. 2 minutes. "Remember, you're not asking for charity. You're offering them the best investment they'll ever make. As we walked back toward the ballroom, he added quietly, "Oh, and Ms. Myers, that family of yours at table 3? After today, they'll never underestimate you again." Hey everyone, I know you're probably wondering what happens when I step onto that stage in front of 500 people, including the family who literally banned me from being there. If you've ever been underestimated because of your job, please comment below and let me know. And if you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the moment everything changes. Thank you so much for watching. The green room was a haven of calm before the storm. I FaceTimed Sarah quickly. "You've got this, Ev." Her face filled my phone screen. "Remember, we've changed 10,000 lives already. They need us more than we need them. The entire Montgomery family is out there, including the ones who think I'm worthless. Then show them what worthless looks like when it helps kids read at grade level for the first time." I smiled, ending the call to review my slides one final time. The data was irrefutable: 10,000 students served, 89% showing measurable improvement, 2 national awards. This wasn't charity, it was revolution. Marcus knocked and entered. "Your family's having a complete meltdown out there. Your dad cornered 3 board members trying to explain that you're confused about your role here." "Let me guess, I'm the help?" "Something like that. He actually told one investor that you were probably here as someone's assistant." Marcus shook his head. "The investor laughed and showed him the program with your name as featured presenter." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Sweetheart, what's happening? Your father is very upset. Are you really presenting?" I didn't respond. She'd had years to ask about my life, my work, my dreams. She'd chosen silence every time Dad diminished me. "2 minutes," Marcus said. "Oh, and Evelyn? My brother James just found out some interesting information about Victoria's finances. Apparently, she owes $800,000 in gambling debts. She's been lying to him from day one." "That's not my concern right now." "No, but it might explain why she was so desperate to keep you away. She needed this marriage for money, and she thought you'd somehow ruin it." He headed for the door. "Break a leg, or as you teachers say, time to school them." The door burst open. Victoria stood there, mascara slightly smudged, her perfect composure cracking. "You have to stop this," she said, closing the door behind her. "Please, Evelyn, I'm begging you." "Stop what? My presentation?" "All of it." Her voice broke. "If you go out there, if you show them up, James will start asking questions. His family will dig into everything." "That's not my problem, Victoria." She stepped closer, and for the first time in years, I saw real fear in her eyes. "I owe money, a lot of money, $800,000. "What?" "Online gambling. It started small, just poker games with friends, then crypto betting, then—" She wrapped her arms around herself. "I kept thinking one big win would fix everything. James was my big win. The Montgomery money would save me. Victoria, you need help. Professional help. I need this marriage." The desperation in her voice was raw. "If you go out there and make me look like the failure, if you show them that the worthless sister is actually successful, James will leave me. His family will investigate. They'll find out everything. You built this on lies." "I'll die, Evelyn. If I lose James, if those creditors come after me, I'll kill myself. Is your presentation worth my life?" I stared at my sister, the golden child who'd spent years mocking my choices, who'd just days ago banned me from her engagement party. She was manipulating me even now, but the fear was real. "Victoria, you need treatment, not a wealthy husband. I can give you resources, connect you with—" "1 minute to stage, Ms. Myers," a stagehand called through the door. Victoria grabbed my hands. "Please, I'm your sister." "You told Dad I was unemployed? That's what you've been telling James's family?" Her silence was answer enough. At 2:30 p.m. exactly, I walked onto the stage. 500 faces turned toward me. The spotlight was blinding for a moment, then my eyes adjusted. Table 3 was right there. Dad frozen mid-conversation, Mom clutching her pearls, Victoria pale as paper. Good afternoon. I'm Evelyn Myers, co-founder and education director of EduBridge Initiative. Gasps rippled from Table 3. Dad actually stood up, then seemed to realize everyone was watching and slowly sat back down. 3 years ago, I sat in my classroom at Lincoln High School, watching brilliant students fail because our system failed them first. Today, I stand before you with proof that teachers, yes, teachers, have the solution. Click, first slide. A photo of students in a low-income school, tablets in hand, faces lit with discovery. EduBridge has reached 10,000 students across Washington state. Our adaptive learning platform has achieved an 89% improvement rate in standardized testing, not 20%, not 50%, 89%. Click. Data charts filled the screen. Undeniable evidence. At Jefferson High, our AP pass rate jumped from 34% to 87%. At Roosevelt Elementary, reading scores improved 2.3 grade levels in 1 year. These aren't anomalies. They're consistent results across 12 districts. The room was silent, except for the scratch of pens on paper. Investors were taking notes. We did this with a total budget of $300,000 over 3 years. Imagine what we could do with real funding. Click. The expansion plan. Year 1, 50,000 students. Year 5, 500,000. Montgomery Foundation's $15 million investment wouldn't just change individual lives, it would revolutionize education equity in America. For 20 minutes, I laid out our vision with the precision of a CEO and the passion of someone who'd watched too many brilliant kids give up on themselves. When I finished, the silence lasted 3 seconds. Then the applause started. The applause was still dying down when James Montgomery stood up from Table 3. Victoria's fiancé, tall, handsome in that prep school way, but his face was stone. I have a question, he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. The room went silent again. Ms. Myers, you said you co-founded EduBridge 3 years ago, yet your sister, my fiancé, told me you were unemployed, that you'd been fired from teaching for incompetence. Can you explain this discrepancy? Victoria let out a small gasp. Dad's face went from red to white. I gripped the podium. I've been continuously employed at Lincoln High School for 7 years. I've never been fired from anything. As for EduBridge, I didn't take a salary for the first 2 years because we put every dollar toward helping students. Perhaps there was a miscommunication. A miscommunication. James's voice was ice. Like the miscommunication about Victoria's supposed MBA from Washington State, the one that doesn't exist, or the miscommunication about her successful marketing firm that was actually dissolved 2 years ago. James, please. Victoria started to stand. Sit down. He didn't even look at her. This morning, my private investigator delivered a report. $800,000 in gambling debts, Victoria. Were you ever going to mention that? Or were you planning to use Montgomery money to pay off your bookies? The ballroom erupted in whispers. Phone cameras appeared despite the no-recording policy. This is a private matter, Dad boomed, standing up. This has nothing to do with... With what, Mr. Myers? William Montgomery stood now, commanding attention. With the fact that you tried to hide your accomplished daughter while promoting the one drowning in debt and lies? That you called Evelyn cheap and embarrassing while Victoria was planning to defraud my family? The engagement is off, James announced to the room. As of this morning, actually. I just wanted Victoria to hear it publicly, the way she publicly lied about everything. Victoria broke. The sob that escaped her wasn't theatrical. It was raw, real, the sound of someone watching their last hope crumble. She pushed back from the table and ran toward the exit, her designer heels clicking frantically on the marble. Dad followed, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. Mom sat frozen, staring at her hands. William Montgomery walked onto the stage carrying a leather portfolio. The room, still buzzing from the revelation about Victoria, fell silent again. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been in business for 40 years. I've seen every kind of pitch, every kind of person. But rarely have I seen someone stand up here with more integrity and vision than Ms. Myers. He opened the portfolio, revealing a contract. This is contract MH 2025 EDEU 001, a 5-year partnership between Montgomery Foundation and EduBridge Initiative. $15 million in funding, with Ms. Myers as our strategic education partner. He turned to me. There's one clause I want to read aloud. Section 7.3. The Montgomery Foundation reserves the right to reject any partnership where conflicts of interest or ethical concerns arise. This clause protects both parties from exactly the kind of deception we witnessed today. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Ms. Myers, will you sign? My hand was steady as I took the Mont Blanc pen. The signature line waited. Evelyn Myers, the teacher too cheap to meet the Montgomerys. The daughter banned from the party. I signed. Ladies and gentlemen, William announced, I present our newest strategic education partner, someone who will help us change 500,000 young lives over the next 5 years. This time, the applause was thunderous. People stood. Even competitors nodded respectfully. I saw phones recording despite the policy. This would be on social media within hours. Marcus appeared at the edge of the stage with a photographer. We need the official photo for the press release. As flashbulbs popped, I caught sight of table 3. Mom still sat there alone, tears streaming down her face. Whether they were tears of shame, pride, or regret, I couldn't tell. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. As I left the stage, I watched Robert attempt damage control. He'd returned from chasing Victoria, his face blotchy, tie askew. He approached a group of VIP investors near the bar. Gentlemen, I'm Robert Myers. You just saw my daughter's presentation. I've been mentoring her for years, you know. Everything she knows about business came from… Excuse me. One of the men cut him off. Didn't you just call her embarrassing? We all heard you in the hallway earlier. Dad's laugh was forced. A misunderstanding. Family joke. I've always supported Evelyn's work. Really? Another investor pulled out his phone. Because James Montgomery just posted the security footage from the hallway. You literally forbade her from attending this event. It already has 10,000 views. The blood drained from Dad's face. A security guard approached. Mr. Myers, I need to escort you out. This is now a private foundation event, and you're not on the updated guest list. That's ridiculous. My daughter is your partner. Yes, sir. Ms. Evelyn Myers is. You're not. Please come with me. As Dad was led toward the exit, his phone rang. He answered, and I watched his face crumble further. What do you mean, inappropriate behavior? His voice carried. This is my career we're talking about. Later, Marcus would tell me that Dad's company, Cascade Insurance, was a small vendor for Montgomery Properties. The CEO had watched the viral video and wasn't pleased with how one of his managers had behaved at Montgomery's premier charity event. The last I saw of Dad that day, he was standing in the lobby, shouting into his phone while guests in evening wear gave him a wide berth. The man who'd built his identity on being respectable, professional, superior, reduced to a spectacle in the very place he'd tried to social climb. William Montgomery returned to the stage, this time with Marcus beside him. Before we continue with tonight's program, I want to make something crystal clear about our new partnership. His voice commanded the room. EduBridge Initiative will receive $3 million in Year 1 funding, with Ms. Myers having full autonomy over implementation. Our goal, 50,000 students by next December. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled. Furthermore, Marcus stepped forward. I'll be serving as co-director working directly with Ms. Myers. I've been following EduBridge's work for over a year. This isn't charity, it's the best education investment in the Pacific Northwest. A reporter from the Seattle Times raised her hand. Ms. Myers, how does it feel to go from teaching salary to managing a multi-million-dollar initiative? I took the microphone. I'm still a teacher. The classroom just got bigger. Will you leave Lincoln High? Never. I'll reduce my course load but keep teaching. Students keep me grounded in why this matters. William nodded approvingly. This is why we chose Ms. Myers. She never forgot the mission. After the announcement, professionals swarmed me. Business cards, LinkedIn requests, interview requests from Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, Education Week. My phone buzzed constantly. Through the crowd, I saw Mom approaching hesitantly. Evelyn. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know about any of it. Your work, the awards, the children you've helped. You never asked, Mom. I know. I let your father. I let him convince me that success only looked one way. Tears ran down her carefully powdered cheeks. I'm so sorry. I should have defended you. All those years, I should have stood up for you. Yes, I said simply. You should have. Can you forgive me? I need time, Mom. Years of silence can't be erased in one afternoon. Wow, thank you so much for staying with me through this journey. The story is almost at its conclusion, but there's one more twist I haven't shared yet. If you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family members, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more inspiring stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't determined by others' opinions. I found Victoria in the bathroom, sitting on the marble counter, her designer dress crumpled, makeup destroyed by tears. The confident Instagram influencer was gone, replaced by someone small and broken. Come to gloat? She asked without looking up. No, I came to check on you. She laughed bitterly. The sister you banned from your party is checking on you. There's irony. Victoria, you need help. Real help. I need $800,000 and a time machine. She finally looked at me. How long have you been successful? How long have you been hiding this? I never hid anything. You just never asked about my life unless it was to mock it. Dad said teachers were losers. And you believed him. She was quiet for a moment. I lost everything today. James, his family, my reputation. It's all over social media. Gold digger exposed at charity gala. I'm trending on Twitter. You can rebuild. How? I'm nobody without someone else's money or status. I don't have skills like you. I don't have passion or purpose. I'm just pretty and desperate. For the first time in years, maybe ever, Victoria was being honest. There are debt counselors, addiction programs. I can give you referrals. Would you give me money? I studied my sister. Even now, broken and humiliated, her first instinct was to look for someone else to solve her problems. No, but I'll help you find resources to help yourself. That's the only real help anyone can give you. She slid off the counter, wobbly in her heels. I hate you a little bit right now. I know. But maybe you're right. Maybe I need to figure out who I am when no one's watching. She left without saying goodbye. 6 months passed in a blur of transformation. The contrast between where I'd been and where I stood now was almost surreal. My new salary as strategic education partner, $150,000 plus comprehensive benefits. I'd moved from my cramped one-bedroom to a two-bedroom apartment downtown with a view of Elliott Bay and space for a real home office. Dad's trajectory went the opposite direction. After the viral video of him calling me cheap and embarrassing reached his company's board, he was demoted from regional manager to junior accounts. His office moved from the executive floor to a cubicle. The man who'd spent decades cultivating an image of success now ate lunch alone in the break room. Victoria had enrolled in Gamblers Anonymous and moved back in with Mom. She worked retail at Nordstrom, not as a personal shopper to the elite like she claimed on Instagram, but in the stockroom, processing returns. Her creditors had agreed to a payment plan, $500 a month for the next 15 years. The irony was perfect. The daughter banned from the engagement party for being too low class now sat in board meetings with billionaires. The sister who'd smirked about her 3-carat ring now wore a name tag and orthopedic shoes. The father who'd declared me worthless now reported to someone half his age. But the sweetest reversal? The Montgomery Foundation board meetings were held on the 40th floor of the Columbia Center, the same floor where Dad's old office had been. Sometimes I'd pass his former colleagues in the hallway. They all knew who I was now. They all knew what he'd said about me. From band to boardroom, Marcus had said during our last meeting. That should be your memoir title. I'd laughed. I'm too busy changing lives to write about my own. But privately, I savored the justice of it all. The Seattle Times ran it above the fold. From classroom to boardroom, teacher becomes million-dollar education revolutionary. The photo showed me signing the contract while William Montgomery smiled approvingly. My LinkedIn exploded overnight. The article about value beyond titles that I wrote about choosing purpose over prestige hit 500,000 views in 3 days. Comments poured in from teachers worldwide sharing their own stories of being undervalued. "You gave us hope," one wrote. "I've been teaching for 20 years, and my brother still asks when I'm getting a real job." Forbes wanted an exclusive. The Wall Street Journal requested an op-ed. TEDx Seattle sent a formal invitation to speak about redefining success in education. 20 tech companies reached out with job offers, some offering triple my teaching salary. I declined them all. "Why stay in teaching?" a reporter asked during an interview. "Because that's where the real work happens. I'm not interested in making rich kids richer. I'm interested in making sure poor kids have a chance." The quote went viral. Old college friends suddenly remembered I existed. My inbox filled with "I always knew you were special" messages from people who hadn't spoken to me in a decade. My high school reunion committee, which had never featured me in alumni spotlights despite my teaching awards, suddenly wanted me as keynote speaker. But the message that mattered came from someone unexpected. Mrs. Smith, my own high school English teacher, now retired. "Evelyn, I've followed your journey. You became what I always knew you could be, someone who changes lives, not despite being a teacher, but because you're a teacher. Never forget that." I printed that email and framed it. It sits on my desk next to the photo from the contract signing, reminding me daily of what really matters. Mom appeared at my new apartment on a Sunday morning, carrying a cardboard box I recognized from our basement. "I need to tell you something," she said, setting the box on my coffee table. Inside were things I'd never seen: newspaper clippings of my teaching awards, printed screenshots of EduBridge's website, photos from our nonprofit events that someone had found on social media, all carefully preserved in plastic sleeves. "You collected these?" "Every single one. I created a Google alert for your name 3 years ago." She sat down heavily. "Evelyn, I need you to know something. When I was 25, my mother banned me from my cousin's wedding. She said my job as a seamstress was too working class for her wealthy relatives." I stared at her. "I never fought back, never stood up for myself. I married your father because he seemed ambitious, successful. I thought if I attached myself to someone going places, I'd finally be enough." She wiped her eyes. "But I lost myself, and when he started doing the same thing to you, I froze. I became my mother, watching history repeat." "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I was a coward. It was easier to stay quiet than admit I'd wasted 40 years trying to earn approval from people who'd never give it." She pulled out one more item: a check. "This is my divorce lawyer's retainer. I'm leaving your father." "Mom, watching you up on that stage, seeing you refuse to shrink yourself, watching you succeed without his approval, you did what I never could. You chose yourself." She stood to leave. "I know I failed you for 15 years. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you taught this old student one last lesson. It's never too late to stop accepting less than you deserve." 3 weeks later, Dad showed up at the EduBridge office. I watched him through the glass door, suit wrinkled, hair uncombed, the polished executive image completely gone. "5 minutes," I told security. "That's all." He entered my office and stopped, taking in the space, the awards on the wall, the view of the sound, the conference table where I'd just finished meeting with Microsoft's education team. "Nice office," he said stiffly. "What do you want, Dad?" I need your help. The words seemed to physically hurt him. My company, they're pushing me out. They say my behavior at the Montgomery event showed poor judgment. If you could call them, explain it was a family misunderstanding. No. No, just like that? Just like that. His face reddened. I'm your father. I raised you. You diminished me. For 15 years, you told me I was worthless. I was trying to motivate you to do better. I was already doing better. I was changing lives. You just couldn't see it because it didn't come with a six-figure salary. He stood up, pacing. This is your fault. If you hadn't shown up at that gala... Stop. My voice was calm but firm. You banned me from my sister's engagement party. You called me cheap. You said I embarrassed the family. Those were your choices. So you're going to let me lose everything? I'm going to let you experience consequences, maybe for the first time in your life. He stared at me. When did you become so cold? I'm not cold, I'm just done trying to earn approval from someone incapable of giving it. When you're ready to genuinely apologize, not to save your job, but because you understand how wrong you were, we can talk. Until then, please leave. Security escorted him out. 6 months into the Montgomery partnership, EduBridge exceeded every projection. We'd reached 25,000 students across Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. The 89% improvement rate held steady, even as we scaled. I hired 10 former colleagues from Lincoln High, teachers who'd been grinding away for decades without recognition. Sarah Cooper became COO with a salary that finally matched her worth. We moved from my apartment's living room to a real office space in Pioneer Square, 5 floors below Montgomery Foundation's offices, but light years away from where we'd started. Microsoft Education came on board as a technology partner. Their adaptive learning AI, combined with our curriculum, created something revolutionary. Students in rural Yakima were accessing the same quality education as kids in Bellevue's best private schools. The first annual EduBridge Gala raised an additional $2 million. I stood on stage in the same ballroom where my life had changed, but this time, I was the one with the microphone. Every dollar you invest tonight goes directly to students, I told the crowd. No executive bonuses, no corporate retreats, just books, technology, and teacher training. That's how we achieved 92% improvement in test scores, by remembering what actually matters. The metrics told the story. 25,000 students served 92%, showing measurable improvement. 10 full-time employees, all former teachers. 5 education centers across 3 states. 15 district partnerships. 1 teacher who refused to stay quiet. Marcus pulled me aside after the gala. You know what the board's saying? That hiring you was the best investment Montgomery Foundation ever made. It wasn't an investment in me, I corrected. It was an investment in every teacher who's been told they don't matter. Same thing, he said. You proved them all wrong. Victoria's email arrived on a Tuesday morning, carefully composed in a way I'd never seen from her before. Evelyn, I've been attending GA meetings for 3 months now. My sponsor says I need to make amends, but that's not why I'm writing. I'm writing because I need a job, and I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I've attached a letter from my therapist and my 90-day CHIP certificate. I'm not the same person who tried to manipulate you in that green room. I'm barely a person at all right now, just someone trying to rebuild from nothing. I'm not asking to work at EduBridge directly. I know that would be inappropriate, but maybe you know someone who would hire an ex-gambler with no degree and a viral video of her public humiliation. I understand if you delete this without responding. Victoria. I read it 3 times. The Victoria I knew would never have admitted to being nothing. She would have demanded, manipulated, played victim. This was different. I wrote back, Victoria, I'm proud of you for getting help. That takes real courage. Working together wouldn't be healthy for either of us, but I've forwarded your information to Second Chances Seattle, a nonprofit that helps people recovering from addiction find employment. The director, Patricia Williams, is expecting your call. This isn't charity. They'll expect you to work hard, stay clean, and rebuild honestly. No shortcuts, no lies, no manipulation. If you're serious about changing, they'll give you a chance. That's more than you gave me, but I believe people can change. Don't contact me again for at least a year. We both need time to heal. Evelyn. She replied with 2 words. Thank you. It was the first genuine thing she'd said to me in years. After a particularly long board meeting, Marcus and I sat in his office overlooking Elliott Bay. The sunset painted the water gold, and for once, we weren't talking about budgets or student metrics. I need to tell you something, he said, pouring 2 glasses of scotch. About why I really reached out to you that night. I waited. My younger brother David was a teacher, elementary school, 3rd grade. Loved those kids more than anything. He stared at his glass. Our family mocked him constantly. Why waste a Montgomery brain on teaching? Why choose poverty when he could run hotels? He took his own life 5 years ago, left a note saying he couldn't stand feeling worthless anymore. That teaching made him happy, but being a disappointment to the family made him miserable. Marcus's voice cracked. He was 35, same age I am now. Marcus? When I heard Victoria at a cocktail party mocking her pathetic teacher sister, something in me snapped. I researched you, found EduBridge, saw what you were building despite your family's contempt. He turned to face me. You were living the life David couldn't, succeeding despite them, not for them. That's why you contacted me that night. I couldn't save David, but I could make sure another teacher got the recognition they deserved. He pulled out a document. This is the David Montgomery Memorial Scholarship, full ride for education majors from low-income families. I'm funding it personally. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 people whose lives had been shaped by families who couldn't see value beyond dollar signs. David would have been proud, I said finally. He would have loved you, Marcus replied. A teacher who refused to apologize for being one. We clinked glasses, toasting a teacher neither of us could save, but whose memory would help save others. A year later, James Montgomery married someone else, Patricia Chen, a special education teacher from Tacoma. The wedding was at the Montgomery Grand, in the same ballroom where everything had exploded. I sat at the head table as an honored guest, between William Montgomery and Marcus, the same table where my family had once sat, convinced they belonged in high society. Funny how things work out, William said during his toast. I thought I was getting a social climbing daughter-in-law. Instead, I got Seattle's most innovative education partner, and my son found real love with someone who shares his values. Patricia was everything Victoria wasn't. Genuine, accomplished in her own right, devoted to her work with special needs children. James looked at her the way he'd never looked at Victoria, with respect, not just attraction. To teachers, William raised his glass, looking directly at me, who shape our future and ask for nothing but the chance to do their work. The entire room toasted. 300 guests, including several who'd witnessed my humiliation 2 years ago, now raising glasses to honor the profession my father had called worthless. Robert and Victoria weren't invited. Their names had been quietly removed from every Montgomery guest list. Mom was there, though, at a table with other EduBridge supporters. She'd volunteered to tutor struggling readers 3 days a week. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. During the reception, Patricia found me. Thank you, she said simply, for showing that teachers belong in every room, at every table. We always belonged, I replied. Some people just took longer to notice. As I looked around the ballroom, the place where I'd been banned, humiliated, then vindicated, I realized the sweetest revenge wasn't the reversal of fortune. It was the fact that I no longer needed anyone's validation to know my worth. Recovery isn't linear, and neither is rebuilding family relationships. I learned to be selective about which bridges deserved reconstruction and which needed to stay burned. Mom and I met for lunch monthly. Not dinner. That felt too much like the old family meals where I'd been diminished. Lunch was neutral, limited, controllable. She'd tell me about her volunteer work, her therapy sessions, the small apartment she'd rented in Fremont. "I'm learning who I am at 60, she said one afternoon. "It's terrifying and exhilarating." Victoria sent updates through her sponsor. 6 months clean, 9 months, a year. She'd been promoted to floor supervisor at Nordstrom. She was taking night classes in accounting. She'd paid off $50,000 of her debt. I didn't respond directly, but I monitored her progress through Patricia Williams at Second Chances. Dad sent a birthday card with a $100 bill inside and a note. "Proud of your success. No apology, no acknowledgement." I donated the money to David Montgomery's scholarship fund and didn't reply. My real family became the people who'd seen my value all along. Sarah Cooper, who'd believed in EduBridge when it was just an idea. Marcus, who'd opened doors not out of charity, but recognition. My fellow teachers at Lincoln High, who'd covered my classes when I had board meetings. I created a document called Relationship Guidelines and stuck to it. Respect is non-negotiable. Past harm must be acknowledged. Changed behavior must be demonstrated, not promised. My work will never be minimized. Boundaries are not punishments, they're protection. Grandma reached out through Mom, wanting to reconnect. She'd read about EduBridge in her retirement home's newsletter. We started with letters, then phone calls. She'd been a teacher too, before Grandpa made her quit. "I'm living through you," she wrote. "Doing what I couldn't." Forgiveness, I learned, doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing people back into spaces where they've caused harm. It means releasing the anger while maintaining the boundaries. Some relationships could be rebuilt with new foundations. Others were better as memories. And that was okay. The numbers told one story. EduBridge had reached 50,000 students across 5 states. My salary had increased to $200,000 plus equity. I'd bought a house in Wallingford with a dedicated home office and a garden where I could think. But the real story was quieter. I still taught 2 classes at Lincoln High, still graded papers on Sunday mornings, still felt that spark when a student finally understood Gatsby's green light or Hamlet's hesitation. "Why not go full corporate?" a Forbes reporter asked during an interview. "You could make millions consulting." "Because Monday morning, I have 32 teenagers who need to know their thoughts matter. That's worth more than any consulting fee." The article headline read, "The Teacher Who Refused to Stop Teaching: How Evelyn Myers Built a $50 million Education Empire Without Leaving the Classroom." I'd started dating Michael, a history teacher I'd met at an education conference. He understood why I graded papers during dinner sometimes, why I cried when a student finally passed their AP exam, why I'd never fully leave the classroom. "You're not a CEO who teaches," he said. "You're a teacher who happens to run a company." The house felt different from my old apartment. It had space for possibility. A room for visiting student teachers, a library for all the books I'd collected, a kitchen where I hosted monthly dinners for EduBridge staff. It was earned, not given, built, not inherited. One evening, I found myself in the garden, reading student essays about success. One wrote, "Ms. Myers shows that success isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right." I smiled. A 17-year-old understood what my father never could. The evening was peaceful. No family drama, no need for validation. Just a teacher, some essays, and the quiet satisfaction of work that matters. The news came through Marcus. Robert Myers had been terminated from Cascade Insurance after a second viral incident, berating a junior employee and calling them worthless in front of clients. The video made rounds in Seattle business circles. No one would hire him. He applied to EduBridge for a janitor position. I saw the application in our system, desperately padded, trying to hide the gaps, the demotion, the termination. Sarah brought it to me personally. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "Reject it. He's not suitable for our organization culture." That was it. No drama, no satisfaction, just a business decision. Mom told me later that he'd moved to a studio apartment in Everett, working nights stocking shelves at a grocery store. He'd applied to over 100 positions. His reputation preceded him everywhere. A letter arrived at my office, handwritten on yellow legal paper. Evelyn, I was wrong about everything. You were never worthless. I was. I measured value by the wrong metrics and lost everything that mattered. I'm not asking for forgiveness or help. I just needed you to know that you were right. Teachers matter. You matter. You always did. I'm proud that you're my daughter, even though I have no right to that pride. Robert. I read it twice, then filed it away. No response needed. Some reckonings happen too late for reconciliation, but perhaps not too late for learning. Mom mentioned he'd started volunteering at a literacy center, teaching adults to read. He's different, she said. Broken. But maybe that's what he needed to be. I didn't visit. Didn't reach out. Some distances are meant to be maintained. But I hoped, quietly, that maybe he'd finally found value in something that didn't come with a price tag. 18 months after the gala disaster, Victoria sent a graduation announcement. Community college, associates in accounting, 3.8 GPA. The photo showed someone I barely recognized. No designer clothes, no perfect contouring, just a woman in a simple cap and gown, holding a diploma she'd earned. Patricia Williams from Second Chances called me. She's been our model participant, never missed a meeting, helps newer members, just got promoted to department manager at Nordstrom. She's paid off $100,000 of her debt. That's good to hear. She talks about you sometimes, says her sister taught her that real value comes from what you build, not what you borrow. I sent a card. Victoria, congratulations on your graduation. This achievement is entirely yours, earned through your hard work and determination. Keep building. Evelyn. She sent back a photo of the card on her desk, next to her diploma and 2-year sobriety chip. No demands to meet, no manipulation, just evidence of growth. Michael asked if I'd ever fully reconcile with her. Maybe someday, I said. When we're both different people. When the sister who banned me and the sister I am now are just memories. He understood. Some relationships need years of distance before they can be rebuilt. Some never can be. But watching someone choose to change, even from afar, has its own value. Mom mentioned Victoria was dating someone new, an accountant from her AA group, 5 years sober. She's honest with him about everything, Mom said. No lies, no pretense. Good, I said, and meant it. People can change. But that doesn't obligate us to witness it up close. Sometimes the kindest thing is to cheer from a distance while maintaining the boundaries that keep us safe. 2 years after that first presentation, I stood before the Montgomery Foundation Board with a proposal that would have seemed impossible when I was just a cheap public school teacher. Phase 2 of EduBridge initiative requires $100 million over 5 years, I said, clicking through slides. Our goal: reach 500,000 students nationally. Board members who'd once wondered why William hired a teacher now leaned forward, taking notes. Our success rate remains at 92%. We've proven this works. Now we scale. Motion to approve, William said immediately. Second, 3 voices said simultaneously. Unanimous approval. $100 million, 500,000 students. There's one more item, William stood. I'm retiring as CEO next year. The board needs fresh leadership, younger perspectives. We're nominating Evelyn Myers for a board seat. I gripped the podium. She's 34, someone said. She'd be our youngest board member ever, another added. Exactly, William replied. She understands what we missed for decades. That real innovation comes from practitioners, not theorists. All in favor? Every hand raised. I became the youngest board member in Montgomery Foundation's 50-year history. The teacher they'd tried to ban from the building now had a vote on every major decision. After the meeting, William pulled me aside. You know what convinced me to hire you initially? The proposal? No. The fact that you walked away from that dinner without defending yourself. You knew your worth wasn't up for debate. That's rare. He smiled. Your father thought keeping you away would protect his image. Instead, it revealed exactly who deserved a seat at this table. As I looked around the boardroom, my boardroom now, I thought about every teacher grading papers late into the night, believing their work matters despite the world telling them otherwise. It does matter. We matter. My TEDx Seattle talk was titled Value Beyond Titles: Why We Measure Worth Wrong. I opened with the story that started everything. 2 years ago, my father banned me from my sister's engagement party because my teaching salary would embarrass the family in front of millionaires. Today, I manage a $100 million education initiative. But here's the truth. I was just as valuable then as I am now. The audience, 2,000 people in person, eventually 5 million online, went silent. We've created a society that measures worth by salary, status by job title, success by what others think. But every day, teachers making $40,000 shape the minds that will cure cancer. Social workers earning less than bartenders save lives. Parents working minimum wage raise children who'll change the world. I talked about the mythology of meritocracy, how we pretend success is individual while ignoring systemic barriers. About how a teacher needed a millionaire's validation to be seen as valuable. Your worth isn't determined by your father's approval, your bank account, or your LinkedIn title. It's determined by the lives you touch, the problems you solve, the love you put into the world. The talk ended with a photo. My Lincoln High students holding signs about their dreams. Future doctors, artists, engineers, teachers. Every person who told me teaching wasn't a real career missed the point. Teaching is the realest career there is. We literally create the future. Standing ovation. But more importantly, thousands of messages from teachers, social workers, artists, everyone who'd been told they were wasting their potential by choosing purpose over profit. Victoria watched it. Dad watched it. I knew because Mom told me. But they watched from their own spaces, their own reckonings, their own distances. And that was exactly as it should be. Thanksgiving at my house looked nothing like the formal dinners of my childhood. No assigned seats, no subtle criticisms, no competition for approval. Sarah Cooper arrived first with her partner and homemade pie. Marcus brought wine and stories from the board meeting. 3 of my Lincoln High colleagues came with their families. 2 former students, now in college, joined us. Mom sat beside Patricia Chen Montgomery, James's teacher wife, comparing notes on difficult students. To chosen family, I toasted, looking around my dining room. To the people who saw our value when blood relatives couldn't. To Evelyn, Marcus countered, who proved that teachers aren't just educators, they're revolutionaries. To second chances, Mom added quietly, and everyone graciously included her in the toast. Michael helped me serve. No hierarchy, no formality, just people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. We talked about students, about breakthrough moments, about the teacher who'd just won Washington State Teacher of the Year using EduBridge's curriculum. Remember when you used to eat lunch alone in your classroom? Sarah asked. Too tired to socialize? Now she has lunch with Bill Gates next week, Marcus laughed, to discuss national education reform. But the moment that mattered came later, when 17-year-old Deshawn, one of my former students, pulled me aside. Ms. M, I got into MIT, full ride, engineering. Deshawn, that's incredible! It's because of you. Not just the teaching, but you showed me that where you come from doesn't determine where you go. That family can be chosen. That worth isn't inherited. Looking at him, at all of them gathered in my home, my real home, with my real family, I understood that success isn't about proving wrong those who doubted you. It's about proving right those who believed. 2 years later, EduBridge had become the national model for education reform. Federal funding secured, $500 million over 10 years. We were in textbooks as a case study in social entrepreneurship. Netflix was producing a documentary titled The Teacher Who Wouldn't Stay Quiet. But the numbers only told part of the story. Robert had been in therapy for 18 months. Through Mom, I learned he'd written letters to every colleague he'd belittled, every employee he'd demeaned. He volunteered 30 hours a week teaching literacy, refusing any payment. I spent 40 years measuring worth wrong, he told his therapist. Maybe I can spend whatever's left measuring it right. I funded his therapy anonymously through a mental health nonprofit. He didn't need to know. Some gifts are better given in silence. Victoria had paid off her entire debt. She'd earned her bachelor's degree in accounting, graduating summa cum laude. She sent a final message through Mom. Thank you for showing me that real worth comes from what you build, not what you take. I'm building now. She'd started a financial literacy program for recovering addicts, free classes every Saturday. She called it Starting Over Smart. I made an anonymous donation to cover their materials for a year. The Montgomery Foundation had helped 500,000 students. Test scores up nationwide in our partner districts. College acceptance rates doubled. But my favorite metric? 10,000 new teachers had joined the profession, inspired by the message that teaching was valuable, vital, revolutionary work. You changed the narrative, William told me at his retirement party. From just a teacher to proudly a teacher. My favorite email came from a teacher in rural Kentucky. I was going to quit. My family said I was wasting my MIT degree. Then I saw your TED Talk. I'm staying. My students need me. Thank you for reminding me that's enough. The documentary crew asked how I wanted to end the film. Simple, I said. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's proving yourself right. And sometimes the family that matters isn't the one you're born into. It's the one that sees your value from day one. The final shot, me teaching at Lincoln High, doing what I'd always done, what I'd never stopped doing, what I'd refused to apologize for. Being a teacher. Being enough. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever been undervalued or had to set boundaries with toxic people, remember, your worth doesn't depend on their validation. Like and share if this story inspired you. Subscribe to hear more stories about choosing yourself. And remember, you are enough, exactly as you are. Your value isn't negotiable. It never was. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.